So I'm sitting here at work at my desk, and I was watching Brother Todd's video, and I thought it was so interesting that he made mention about how the shoes are about to drop.
And blah, blah, blah. So I'm sitting there and I'm editing a video that wouldn't upload, and I'm like, why is this video not uploading? And then I thought, tsunami, and I heard in my spirit, the shoe's about to drop.
Then it showed where I was in the passenger seat, and I started hearing this conversation going on behind me in the back seat. And I remember they were having this discussion regarding shoes. I really don't know why, but this is what was going on. It was almost like they were arguing. They were going back and forth. When I turned around, I noticed that my oldest son was in the back seat, and he was part of the conversation. And then I realized that the person who was sitting directly behind me was Barack Obama. So it was Obama and my son having this conversation about shoes. Well, I remember I told my son not to argue about this. So I ended up turning back around, and I noticed that my son was no longer in the back seat. So I started asking very frantically, where is my son? And Obama kind of responded it was like he was taunting me. He was like, oh, your son is no longer here. He must have disappeared. It was like he knew where he was, but he was taunting me. And so I kept asking, where is my son? Where is my son? And then all of a sudden the car stopped. And I remember I got out of the car, and I remember it was a black SUV. And I got out of the car, and I was yelling for my son. I was calling his name. And I couldn't see him, and he wouldn't respond. And I just began to panic, like, where are you? Like, where is my son? And as I was looking, I noticed that there were shoes everywhere. I mean, just shoes, hundreds of shoes everywhere on this street. And that was the same dream where a rapture took place, and where I told you guys that I literally saw an angel, because I thought for a moment that I was left behind. And I was praying, and I looked up and I saw an angel, and she was looking for someone, and I was praying that it was me. And she looked at me, and she grabbed hold of me, and I was caught up. I can't tell you the chills I had going down my spine when I heard him say, the shoes are about to drop. I don't know, you guys. I find it so fascinating that I would have that dream when I did, of seeing a beautiful tree. I mean, it was so gorgeous. And then here it is today. It's the new year of trees, and I've never heard of this until I heard Sandy Armstrong speak about it. When we look at the Jewish holy day, Tu B'Shvat, we find that if we're technically still in the year 2017, that would fall on sundown February the 10th. It would start sundown February the 10th through sundown February the 11th. What's very fascinating about that is it brings me back to two visions I had back in 2015. The first vision I had was on October the 4th of 2015, and it was the same vision where I was taken into Joel Osteen's church, and I saw on the monitor where there was some breaking news, and it said that the tribulation will begin in January. Well, the scene that happened before that, I was actually taken to a room and I was being moved in the spirit in this vision. I had no control of where I was going. I was being moved. So this was definitely a vision. I was taken into a room, and this room was filled with red Valentine heart-shaped balloons. All of these balloons were red, and they were in the shape of a heart. Only one or two of the balloons said, "Be my Valentine." Now, I know I'm going to have someone come on here and say Valentine's Day is a pagan holiday. I agree. I do not celebrate Valentine's Day. Me and my husband have not celebrated Valentine's Day in many years. But I'm not condemning anyone who celebrates Valentine's Day. Second vision I had on October the 22nd of 2015. I was in a vision. I was looking up into the heavens. I was crying out to the Lord. It was like my soul was crying out because I was in deep despair, because I was so longing for the Lord's return. And I was crying out to the Lord, asking him, how much longer? When are you coming? As soon as I asked that question, I was immediately taken into this place where a musical was being performed. I began to hear them sing a Christmas song, and then I heard them sing something pertaining to Valentine's Day.
Walk with me, Lord. Walk with me. Walk with me, Lord. Walk with me. While I'm on this Jesus journey, I want God to walk with me. Don't leave me alone, God. Don't leave me alone. Don't leave me alone, God. Don't leave me alone. While I'm on this whole Jesus journey, don't leave me alone, God. Don't leave me alone.
Hey you guys, so I had a dream on February the 6th, and in this dream it showed me at my job, and interestingly there was a Bible study that was being held at my job. And I remember seeing a co-worker that I do work with on a daily basis, and we were in this room where the Bible study was being held, and there was a big white board that the guy was using to write certain scriptures on. Well, the only thing I can remember as far as what was actually written on this whiteboard, it started out by saying, "But as for me," kind of like the scripture verse we find where it says, "But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord." Well, it was like the statement started out saying, "But as for me," and the only other thing I can remember that was written was the word flood. So he was asking people, you know, to join in and give their input as to what they believed that it meant. And a lot of people, of course, were saying that they believed that the mention of the flood was in reference to Noah. But I ended up raising my hand, and he called on me. For some reason, I knew that this was speaking of Peter. And the word flood, I said, was referencing the persecution of Christians. The way he looked at me was almost like, "I can't believe you just said that." Almost like I wasn't supposed to say it, like that was too much truth. But he didn't really acknowledge me. Like, he didn't say, "Okay, yeah, that's a good point." He didn't agree, he didn't disagree. It was just the look he gave me was like, "I can't believe you just said that." So we see here that Peter is making reference regarding the angels that rebelled against God, the flood where he destroyed those who were unrighteous, and Sodom and Gomorrah where he destroyed those who were unrighteous. And I believe that what I was being shown in that dream was the flood was twofold. A lot of the people that agreed, which, you know, in the dream I was like, yeah, that, you know, does make reference to Noah when you look at the flood. But I believe not only does it make reference to Noah, but it also made reference to the pending judgment. And I believe that's why I said that the flood represented the persecution of Christians. Because here's the thing, the flood that we are about to enter into is twofold. I believe that the flood is going to not only bring about a way of escape, because we know that the ark was the way of escape for Noah and his family when God brought the flood, but it was also a judgment that was brought upon the world. And so the flood is an escape and is also a judgment. But those that are left behind, especially Christians who were lukewarm, they're going to be persecuted. They want a world that's free of Christians. That's what this whole New World Order is about. They don't want anyone here in this world, in their new world, that will not accept the worship of the Antichrist, the worship of Satan. And so they're going to rid the world of anyone who embodies Christianity. That's just the realness of that. So I do believe that what was shown to me on the 6th is very profound, and it just goes to show how truly close we are. That, you know, this flood, which represents God's judgment upon the world, but it also represents an escape. This judgment is not for those who love the Lord and who have been following Him and who have been sacrificing their life and have been doing everything they humanly know possible to do to show and prove to the Lord that they are truly following them with their whole hearts and their whole lives. His judgment is not for those people. His judgment is for those who have really rejected him, who have completely rejected him. And I just pray that we're all ready. I pray that we're all prepared, because the flood is coming. The flood is coming.
But this world is a lie. This world deserves to die. Because this is your world. We've lived by your rules long enough. We can save this world. We can burn it to the ground, and from the ashes, build a new world. Our world.